and welcome to the Rational Living Show. I am your host, Dr. Aldo Pucci. This is a weekly show that is broadcast live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern United States time. So thankful that you could be here with us for our show. I'm president of the National Association of Cognitive Behavioral Therapists, an association that's based in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. I developed an approach to cognitive behavioral therapy called Rational Living Therapy and have trained hundreds of thousands of therapists across the country. I'm also author of 2 books, The Client's Guide to Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, which is now in its 2nd edition, and Feel the Way You Want to Feel No Matter What. And you can find both of those books on Amazon.com. Be sure to look for the 2nd edition of The Client's Guide. This is an interactive show. If you're listening on Podbean, you can use the Podbean app to call in with your questions. This is a call-in show even more today. And so please, you can use the Podbean app to call in with your questions. And also, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, X, or LinkedIn, you may type your questions or comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. The title of this week's episode is Stress and Life Problems Call-In Show. Okay, so please call in. Please type in your questions. I have some questions that I've received over the week, and so I'll answer these. But if I see that you have you're trying to call in or typing some questions, then I'll address those as well. Okay. All right, the first one, is related to work and financial stress. And the person asks, I'm constantly overwhelmed at work and feel like I can never catch up. How do I stop feeling mentally exhausted all the time? Okay, well, first of all, it is possible to have more work than you're able to adequately do at any given point. So that's a possible thing. It's certainly possible. But notice what you said here. I'm constantly overwhelmed at work. So that's problem number one, is that often people have the perception of being overwhelmed. But what they really mean is it seems like I have more work than I'm able to handle at this moment. But often in reaction to that, they then make themselves anxious about it. And that's really what they're reacting to. So they tend to label it as being overwhelmed, when in fact, they're not in danger in any way, typically, especially at work. It's just that they're making themselves anxious about the possibility that they will not get it all done or get it all done adequately. And notice what else the person said, and feel like I can never catch up. Well, there's no such emotional feeling as that I can never get up. So what you really mean is, and I think it seems to me that I can never catch up. So so the rest of the question is, how do I stop feeling mentally exhausted all the time? Well, one is by refusing to make yourself anxious about your workload. To work at challenging, first of all, identifying what do I actually fear will happen if I do not get it all done or do not get it done adequately. What do I really fear? Am I afraid that I'm going to lose my job? And then what am I afraid will happen if I lose my job? Am I afraid that I'm not going to be able to pay my bills? And then if you're afraid you're not going to be able to pay your bills, then what? So work at identifying your most feared, the consequences of your fears, and then work at challenging them. Is it indeed a fact that if I cannot get it all done or get it done adequately, that I will necessarily get fired? And it is indeed a fact that if I get fired, that means that there is no way I'll be able to pay my bills. And is it indeed a fact that if I cannot pay my bills, I and my family will end up on the street, sleeping on a park bench and all those extreme ideas that people often have? So certainly your preference might be to get all the work done and to do an adequate job and to maintain, to keep your job. But it's very important to so the work itself could be tiring. You're trying to get everything done, but what often makes matters worse certainly is making yourself anxious about it. And then, of course, you could also talk with your boss about it. Particularly if your boss is rational in his or her thinking, and express to them your concern about that you're wanting to do a good job, wanting to get things done. You're not so sure that are the practical things you can do to get it done, okay, and done well, because that's what you're wanting. Okay, someone else asked, and remember, if you have any questions, this is we're focusing on questions today, stress and life problems. So call in with the Podbean app if you're listening on the Podbean app, or you can type your questions. If you're watching on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or X, please feel free to type in your questions and I'll answer your questions. The next question that I received this week is, every unexpected bill throws me into panic. How can I stop catastrophizing about money? All right. Well, the first thing that's important for you to recognize and to remind yourself is that unexpected bills do not cause you to panic. It's your fearful thoughts about those bills that cause you to panic. And it seems as though you understand that, because what the second part of the question is, how can I stop catastrophizing about money? Well, by first identifying just what do I fear will happen if I cannot pay this unexpected bill, or any bill for that matter, and then would that consequence be unpleasant and unfortunate, or would it be a terrible, horrible thing that I can't stand, I can't take, it would be the end of me? Is it a fact that, let's say you're paying for some furniture or something, you're making payments, and you just do not seem to be able to make the payments any longer? Well, would it be the end of you if they came and took the furniture away? Of course not. Might it be unpleasant? Might it be an inconvenience for you? Sure. But it's certainly not a life or death situation to panic over. Now, just because it's a life or death situation does not mean that you might not be motivated to see what you could do to work it out with whoever loaned you the money for the furniture, to see if you might be able to hold on to it, because apparently, you wouldn't have bought it if you didn't want it. And so it's not as though you cannot seek practical solutions for this practical problem, but work at counseling yourself rationally. It would only be unpleasant and unfortunate if they came and took my furniture. Okay. Next question. Someone sent in this week, I hate my job, but I feel trapped. How do I cope when I can't immediately change my situation? Well, again, first of all, there's no such feeling as trapped. So what you really mean is, I hate my job, and it seems to me like I'm trapped in this job, like I can't leave. And so, is that indeed a fact that you are stuck at your job? Well, the only way you could be stuck working at a job is if your employer chained you to a desk or something, and did not allow you to leave physically. Otherwise, every time you go to work and you stay there for the allotted time, and then you leave and then return the next day, it's because you are actively deciding to go there, to put the work in, to go home, and then to return the next day. Okay, so you are in no way trapped unless you are physically kept there, as if it were a prison or something along those lines. So now, why might a person decide to remain with an employer to continue working a job that they hate? Well, they might find that there are some advantages to working this job, and so therefore, even though they very much hate it, they realize that they might be worse off if they were to not have that job. But of course, there are other possible irrational ideas, such as I could never get another job. Who on earth would want to hire me? It was I lucked out that I got this one. There are no other jobs, and other ideas like that. And I just know it because I don't know of any. That type of irrational jumping to conclusions. So now, of course, what you can also do is work at this hatred for your job. So one of the things you can do is refuse to awfulize whatever it is you dislike about the job. Work on can't stand-itis. I can't take how my boss treats me. I can't stand the work. I can't stand how boring the job is. And change that to I can stand it. I just very much dislike it. And I have a good reason to stand it until I can find something different or perhaps encourage a change at my employment. So the second part of your question was, how do I cope when I can't immediately change my situation? By first of all, realizing and remind yourself that you do not need to immediately change your situation, that there is no requirement that you immediately change your situation. And as a matter of fact, for you to feel and act differently does not require you to change your situation at all. Okay. Now, if your situation were to change, you might find it to be more pleasant for you, more in keeping with your goals, your desires, etc. But even if your situation did change, you still have to change your thinking along with it. Okay. So work at refusing to awfulize what's going on at your work. Okay. Remember, this is we're focusing on questions today related to stress and life problems. So if you're listening on the Podbean app, be sure to call in with your questions. You can use the Podbean app to do that. Or if you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn or X or Facebook, you can type in your questions. I'm glad to answer any that you have. Another question I received this week is, how do I stop replaying conversations and embarrassing moments over and over? Okay, great. Well, one of the reasons why people replay these types of events in their mind over and over is because they're making themselves miserable about it. If they weren't making themselves miserable about it, it might be a fleeting thought. But it's likely that something is reminding you of these events that happened. And then you might spend some time ruminating about it, thinking about it over and over. So notice what you said. How do I stop replaying conversations and embarrassing moments? So apparently, if I'm understanding correctly, these are conversations that you disliked, that you were concerned about, that perhaps you're afraid will lead to problems in the future. And notice you say embarrassing moments. There's no such thing as an embarrassing moment. There are things that we do, and we might concern ourselves with how others might react to what we just did, perhaps made a mistake or what have you. But there's no such thing as an objectively embarrassing moment. So work at identifying just what am I afraid will be the consequence of this event. And I'm afraid that, since you mentioned embarrassing, I'm afraid that people will think negatively about me because of this thing, because I said something that now I wish I hadn't said. And I'm afraid that people will shun me or dislike me and not want to continue relating to me, being my friend or what have you. So, but then there's a second part of that, and that would be a horrible thing if I were to lose my friends, etc. So work at challenging that. Would it be horrible? Would it be a terrible thing that I couldn't take, or would it be an unpleasant and unfortunate thing? And see, and obviously, if you have friends that you like, you likely are motivated to maintain those friendships. So it's not as though it doesn't matter to you whether people decide they no longer want to be your friend. It does matter to you, but it's the difference between having a desire and living your life in fear. Okay, so we all take turns doing dumb things. We all take turns doing things that later on we think, wow, I wish I hadn't said that. That just wasn't very good of me to say this. I wish I could take it back or what have you. So we take our turns because we're all fallible human beings. And so so work out these relationships with the people that you care about. But now, of course, there's another issue, and that is if the people involved in this situation that you're referring to are people that really do not matter much in your life, then what difference does it make what their thinking is? What their thoughts about you are, if their acting on them has little impact on your life at all. So refuse to act as though everyone has the same impact on your life, that everyone matters to you equally, because they don't. Okay. All right. Next question. Remember, this is a call-in show, so please type in your questions or call in with the Podbean app. Be glad to answer any questions that you have. Okay. Someone else sent in a question this week. How can I calm myself when I feel overwhelmed? There we go again, feeling overwhelmed, right? By uncertainty. All right. I actually did my master's thesis on uncertainty. I conducted an experiment related to uncertainty. And it's interesting because often people think, including psychologists, think that uncertainty causes anxiety. Well, uncertainty does not cause anxiety because, and here's why. Because if I'm uncertain whether I will win $5 million or $10 million, I'm going to come out ahead either way, right? I don't fear either consequence. However, if I'm uncertain as to whether I will win $5 million or get shot, now that's a problem, right? Because one of the options, one of the possibilities is one that I would very much prefer to avoid, okay? So it's when people are uncertain about something that they fear, that's when a person will make themselves anxious about it, okay? So refuse to concern yourself with the simple not knowing what's going to happen. And but if you are concerned about some possible outcomes, some possible situations in the future, and some of those options include some things that you might very much dislike, work at categorizing it. Is this something that would be life-threatening for me? Because notice what you said here, overwhelmed, which suggests that you're making yourself very anxious about it. So is this something that would be the end of me, or is this something that would be unpleasant and uncomfortable? And for so many situations, it boils down to that. Is this something that would be the end of me, or is this something that would be unpleasant and uncomfortable? Do I need it to go my way, or do I only want it to go my way? Okay. All right. And by the way, if you're a therapist watching our show, I encourage you to get trained in the rational living therapy approach that I developed. And you can learn more about it at cbtonlinetraining.com. That's cbtonlinetraining.com. Okay, great. Now, another question that I received is, how do I deal with family members who constantly create drama? Okay, well, the first thing that you might do is challenge the very idea that they are constantly creating drama, because constant means without ceasing, right? So constant drama, the constant creation of drama would be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, drama creation. So I doubt that that's the case, right? Perhaps what you mean is frequently or much more often than I wish they would, something along those lines. But it's not, I doubt seriously that it's constant drama creation. But then it's also important to examine the word drama. Just what do I mean by drama? What is it that they are actually doing? Because you see, this is a great example of how sometimes people use words that are vague, and sometimes they don't even know themselves what they actually mean when they use that word. But drama in this sense tends to have a negative connotation, so of some type of intense conflict or intense emotional outburst or something along those lines. But without being able to ask specifically what you mean by that, it's hard for me to know what you mean specifically. But again, work at examining how you are approaching this. Is this something that is an annoyance for me, meaning something I dislike? I sure don't like it when they start talking about this, or I sure don't like it when my family members act this way. And then ask yourself, is this something that, well, first of all, where is the evidence that they must not act this way? Where is the evidence that just because I don't want them to act this way, that they must not act this way? And secondly, where is the evidence that I can't stand it, I can't take it, as opposed to it's unpleasant, it's something that I dislike, but I certainly can stand and can take it. But now, with that said, the next question is, so therefore, why would I be in the same room with someone who's acting a certain way that I just don't like? Well, maybe you have some reasons that are more important to you than whatever discomfort you might feel at your upsetting thoughts, caused by your upsetting thoughts about whatever it is that they're doing. So perhaps, I don't know, you're meeting with your in-laws and you're not too thrilled with the kinds of things that they talk about or say or what have you, but you love your spouse very much, and you know that it's important to them, and you like it when your spouse is happy, and so you do it for them. So we can have some reasons that are important to us to put up with people's nonsense, and that is brought to you by the fact that you can stand it, you just don't like it. Okay. And also you might use it as an opportunity, view it as an opportunity to work on your rational self-counseling. Okay. All right. Great. Let's see, we have another question here. How can couples support each other during stressful seasons? Speaking of that, during stressful seasons without turning against each other. Okay, let me read this again. Great question that was sent in. How can couples support each other during stressful seasons without turning against each other? Well, by loving each other, by loving on each other, by remaining focused on that fact, and refusing to take out on each other whatever it is that's going on. As if it's your spouse's fault, and even if they have some responsibility in it, conflict will likely not help matters at all, right? So notice the question: how can couples support each other during stressful seasons without turning against each other, by being a team, by loving each other, and also by working to counsel yourselves rationally, supporting each other in rational self-counseling, and being a team, viewing each other as the two of you together as being a team, working on this issue, whatever it is that might be. Okay. All right. So someone else asks, how do you motivate yourself when you feel mentally drained? All right. Well, certainly it is important to get proper rest, to get some good, sound, quality sleep. And if you have difficulty with that, seek help, both from a qualified rational living therapist, for example, and also from perhaps a naturopathic counselor, who can get to the bottom of any physical reasons why you might be having difficulty sleeping. So, and also maintain a good diet. Feed your body well with proper nutrients, and stay away from things that might bog you down. And so have your body in good working order. That certainly helps. And then to motivate yourself when it seems like you're mentally drained, focus on what is important to you and why it's important to you. And that will help you to have that resilience, like that we've talked about the last couple of weeks. That will help you to have that resilience to continue on, to push, to press forward when it seems like it just doesn't seem like I can. Now, of course, there's also the issue of, is there any requirement that I continue on right now in terms of, achieving my goals or taking care of a task? Is it possible for me to take a break and perhaps take a nap or just rest for a day or so and then come back to it? And not to mention the fact that you might come up with some ideas to make achieving the task or achieving the goal or completing the task even easier for you. But to motivate yourself, have a clear idea in your mind, and you might even have reminders in your home so that you remain mindful. You don't have to obsess about it, but just remain mindful enough to get the job done. So be mindful of not only what you want, but why you want it, why it's important to you. Okay, and then press on. All right, like I said, this is a call-in show, so and we're focused on questions this week related to stress and life problems. So if you're using the Podbean app, please feel free to use it to call in with your questions. And if you are on watching video on Facebook or YouTube, LinkedIn, X, you can type in your questions. I'll be glad to answer them. Let's see, we have a couple others here that were sent in. Let's see. What are practical ways to increase frustration tolerance? This is a terrific question. Notice the question. What are practical ways to increase frustration tolerance? Now, remember that in rational living therapy, what we teach is that frustration is not a feeling. That's what most people are taught. That's what most people believe, that frustration is a feeling. That's not true. Frustration is a situation. Okay. In other words, you have a goal and there's an obstacle making it more difficult to achieve that goal. So that obstacle is frustrating your efforts to achieve that goal. And so what people usually mean when they say I'm frustrated, what they usually mean is I'm irritated. I'm making myself irritated or maybe even angry about not being able to more easily achieve this goal or take care of this task or complete this task or correct this problem or what have you. So what are some practical ways to increase frustration tolerance? So when we have situations where our strong preference would be for to be able to achieve a goal easily without any obstacles in the way, without any problems, but it's just not doesn't work out that way. Well, one is to intentionally expose yourself to more difficult tasks or to tasks that where it's more likely that you will run into roadblocks. So one of the problems is with emotions and behaviors, what tends to create problems for us is avoidance. And so it's very difficult to realize that I can stand frustration, I can take it, and I have the ability to press on even though there are obstacles. It's very difficult to realize that, at least on your own, if you never place yourself in a position to have to deal with those obstacles. So intentionally put yourself into more complicated situations, more difficult situations, to prove to yourself, I can take it, I can stand it. I don't have to have every situation run smoothly. If things come up, problems, obstacles, I can stick with it. Look, because I am, and I saw it through, and I'm doing just fine. So those are practical things you can do. But it's also important to pay attention. Don't you know, I got through that. I stuck with it. Yeah, sure, I didn't like it because my preference is that it goes smoothly, that I achieve my goals easily rather than in a difficult way. But I stuck with it even though there were obstacles, and I achieved the goal, and I'm so thankful for it. Okay, so pay attention to your efforts, to your success. Okay. All right, let's see. One last question, okay? And unless any of you have any questions, you can type them in. And that is, I guess, can you really control your emotional reactions? Can you really control your emotional reactions? Yes. Not only can you control your emotional reactions, you always do. But what happened? The reason why sometimes people wonder if they can control their emotional reactions is because they react in a way that they wish they wouldn't, and so they label that being out of control. I wanted to react a certain way, but I didn't. I reacted a different way instead, so I must not be controlling my reactions. No. If you, how many times have you driven your car somewhere and taken a wrong turn, and perhaps you got lost? And now, were you in control of your car when you got lost? Sure, you were. Did the car have a mind of its own and just went where it wanted to? No, unless you hit a patch of ice or something in the wintertime. So what you did was you controlled it in a way that got you lost, but you still controlled it. So when people react to things, they are controlling themselves. Sometimes we control ourselves rationally. Other times we control ourselves irrationally. And so what we teach in rational living therapy is a method that allows you to consistently counsel yourself rationally. Now, not perfectly, because we are imperfect human beings. But when you have a system, when you know what you're doing, you greatly increase the likelihood that you will counsel yourself rationally, even if you didn't initially, that you will work at counseling yourself rationally and have a better outcome as a result. Okay, so the fact that you're making yourself miserable, if you are, it does not prove that you're not controlling your reactions. Of course, you're controlling them. You're controlling them in a way you wish you wouldn't. Okay, and so by learning rational self-counseling, you then are equipped to counsel yourself the way to feel the way you want to feel, and to behave in ways that are consistent with your goals, etc. Okay. All right, terrific. This is the Rational Living Show. I am your host, Dr. Aldo Pucci. The Rational Living Show is broadcast every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern United States time. Make sure to share your podcast with your family and your friends and your therapist, etc. Also, please visit our websites, nacbt.org. That's nacbt.org. That's the website for the National Association of Cognitive Behavioral Therapists, and also cbtonlinetraining.com. Okay. I am Dr. Aldo Pucci, and I certainly thank you for watching our podcast, and I hope that it was helpful to you. Please be sure to like it, to subscribe, so that you won't miss an episode, and please share it with your friends. Okay. Thank you all so much. Looking forward to seeing you next time.